Look, most people use the terms narcissist and psychopath interchangeably. That's a mistake. It's like confusing a house cat with a shark. Both can scratch you, sure, but one wants to play a game of attention, the other wants your total destruction. This isn't about semantics. This is about understanding the intent behind the tactics they use. Narcissists want your attention. Psychopaths want your destruction. Here's how to tell. When I was running interrogations, the first thing we had to establish was motive. A narcissist's motive is always, without exception, about ego supply. They manipulate because they are terrified of being seen as ordinary, flawed, or irrelevant. Their tactics are loud, defensive, and messy. A psychopath's motive is instrumental control and power. They manipulate because it's the most efficient way to get money, resources, secrets, or simply the thrill of watching you suffer. Their tactics are cold, calculated, and often leave no trace. Let's start with the opening move, the thing that draws you in. Love bombing versus strategic mirroring. The narcissist's love bombing is overwhelming. It's a flood of praise, gifts, and instant intimacy. Why? Because they need you to become immediately dependent on their validation, their supply. The love bombing is frantic and genuine to them because they are idealizing you as the perfect, flawless source of supply. They aren't faking the high, they are addicted to the feeling of finally being adored. It's about them finding a temporary solution to their own self-hatred. The psychopath's strategic mirroring is terrifyingly precise. They don't flood you with their own needs, they listen. They extract data on your insecurities, your dreams, your hobbies, and your language. They then feed that data back to you, perfectly reflecting your ideal partner. The psychopath is not getting a genuine high from this. They are calmly and rationally constructing a perfect Trojan horse to gain access to your life. It's about you being perfectly profiled for future exploitation. Relatable case study. I consulted on a large corporate fraud. The narcissist, an executive named Paul, spent $50,000 on his new fiancée in the first month. Expensive trips, diamonds, everything loud and visible. He needed the validation that he was a powerful provider. The psychopath, a con artist named Victor, spent 6 months carefully reading the target's favorite obscure poetry and learning about his niche coin collection. Victor's opening move was not a gift, but a simple, profound statement that made the target feel deeply understood. Key insight. The narcissist is trying to sell you the fantasy of their own life. The psychopath is selling you the fantasy of your life. Does their initial charm feel overwhelming and needy, or does it feel quiet, perfect, and unnerving? The distinction is the first step toward self-preservation. This is the tactic everyone talks about, but few understand the underlying purpose. Gaslighting is their way of rewriting reality, but the reason they do it is fundamentally different. The narcissist's gaslighting is for ego defense. It is a desperate, reactive tactic. You challenge them. You said you'd call, but you didn't. They panic because your statement implies a flaw. Their response is immediate, defensive gaslighting. No, I never said that. You're always putting words in my mouth. You need to stop being so paranoid. They aren't trying to systematically destroy your sanity. They are trying to eliminate the single piece of evidence that proves they are imperfect. The process is chaotic and often accompanied by furious, defensive rage. Let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret was a teacher, a high-functioning narcissist. When a student pointed out she'd marked a test wrong, she didn't calmly review it. She instead insisted the student was lying about the original answer and that the student was clearly trying to cheat. Her goal was to deflect the shame of a simple error and restore her image of flawless competence. The psychopath's gaslighting is for instrumental control. It is a calm, strategic tactic. They don't wait for you to challenge them, they proactively introduce subtle, consistent distortions into your reality over weeks or months. They might hide your keys every Tuesday, then deny it. Their goal is not to defend a flaw, but to make you question your own sanity so you become easier to manipulate and exploit. If you can't trust your own mind, you will default to trusting them. Relatable example. A psychopath might tell you, calmly and consistently, over months, that your best friend mentioned they hate your new career. They do this not because they care about your career, but because they want to isolate you from your support network, making the final exploitation easier. They are creating a psychological environment where you are utterly dependent on their version of events. Psychological distinction. The narcissist's gaslighting says, "I am right and you are wrong." The psychopath's gaslighting says, "There is no reality except the one I give you." When they lie to you about reality, are they doing it with panic and fury to save face, or are they doing it with a flat, cold calmness to make you doubt your mind? The temperature of the lie reveals the motive. Both types use others to control you, but the role those other people play is radically different. The narcissist's triangulation is about audience creation and validation. They drag a third party into the conflict, often an old ex, a new flame, or a family member, to make you jealous, insecure, or feel like you need to compete for their attention. Their goal is to prove their desirability and, by extension, their inherent worth. The third party is a prop used to boost the narcissist's supply. The tactic is defensive and attention-seeking. Let me tell you about Henry. Henry, a serial dater, would constantly post old pictures with ex-girlfriends when his current partner showed a moment of independence. He wasn't planning to leave his partner. He was using the ghosts of his past to ensure she felt insecure enough to chase him and validate him. The third party, the ex, was just a mirror reflecting Henry's importance back to his current supply. The psychopath's triangulation is about resource access and operational efficiency. They involve a third party not to make you jealous, but because the third party has something the psychopath needs, or is a more efficient source of supply. They will triangulate you with a person who has more money, better status, or who can provide a specific service. The third party is a transactional tool, not a prop. Practical example. A psychopath doesn't triangulate you with an ex to make you jealous, they triangulate you with their new investor to gain access to their money, or their new manager to get a promotion. If the third party is a romantic interest, it's often because that person offers a higher social status or a richer financial future. The psychopathic triangulation is always goal-oriented and emotionless. They are simply upgrading their toolkit. Reflective question. When they bring someone else into your conflict, is it to make you feel like you're losing a competition? Or is it because the new person offers a specific, tangible advantage they need? Future faking is the promise of a glorious future together, but it serves two distinct manipulative purposes. The narcissist's future. Faking is the ego's dream. They genuinely believe the fantasy they are selling because they need to believe it. They are selling you on a future that proves they are the ideal, successful, powerful partner they desperately want to be. They will talk about the perfect house, the world travels, the idyllic family, all designed to keep you fixated on the potential of their perfect image. They use it to maintain supply now by keeping you invested in their self-image. The problem is they have no intention or capacity to do the hard work required to achieve that future. Let me tell you about Stephen. Stephen promised his partner that they were going to start a charity together, sell the house, and sail the world. He'd spend hours designing the charity's logo and talking about their grand departure. It was intoxicating. But when it came time to actually sell the house or fill out the legal paperwork for the charity, he'd find excuses. The fantasy was the reward, the reality was the obstacle. He just needed her to believe in his grand vision to stay. The psychopath's future. Faking is the calculated hook. They don't believe the fantasy, but they know you do. They extract your specific dreams and fears through careful mirroring, and then weave those into a fake future that is impossible for you to resist. Their promise is a time-bound, conditional release mechanism. The moment you deliver the resource they want, the promise vanishes because it has served its purpose. They use it to keep you tethered long enough to extract a specific resource. Practical example. A psychopath won't promise to sail the world with you. They'll promise to quit their bad habit and commit to your family after you co-sign the loan they need for a once-in-a-lifetime business deal. The future is an instrument of commerce, not a defense of the ego. Key distinction. The narcissist future fakes to keep you idealizing them. The psychopath future fakes to keep you delivering resources. Is the future they promise about validating their grand self, or is it tied to a specific action they need you to take right now? When the relationship ends, the manipulation often ramps up, but their goals for the smear campaign are radically different. The narcissist's smear campaign is driven by the fear of exposure. The moment you leave, you become a massive threat to their carefully constructed public image. Their campaign is loud, frantic, and emotional. They tell mutual friends that you are crazy, you were the abuser, or you were unstable. They need to get their version of the story out first, using dramatic claims and crocodile tears, because they must neutralize your ability to reveal their true, flawed self. The goal is to save face and ensure the rest of their supply chain does not cut them off. Let me tell you about Richard. Richard was a high-profile narcissist who was being divorced. He did not just tell friends his wife was difficult, he started an anonymous website detailing her alleged flaws and even tried to convince his children their mother had a secret drinking problem. The desperation was palpable because he was in genuine terror of his reputation being destroyed. The psychopath's smear campaign is a covert exit strategy. It is not driven by emotional panic. Their smear is often quiet-targeted and designed to achieve two things. First, to preemptively discredit you so you can't retaliate or go to the authorities, and second, to provide them cover so they can seamlessly move on to their next target without the inconvenience of messy scrutiny. They might plant subtle rumors at your workplace or send a single, devastatingly convincing email to your family. It's surgical, not theatrical. Practical example. A narcissist sends a mass email to 50 friends detailing your psychological flaws. A psychopath quietly sends one devastatingly false piece of paperwork to your employer, ensuring you lose your job while they walk away clean. Core difference. The narcissist is worried about reputation. The psychopath is worried about legal consequences and operational speed. Is the attack a chaotic attempt to win a public opinion war? Or is it a cold, targeted strike designed to disable your ability to function? This is a tactic that few people recognize as manipulation, but I've seen it used by high-end psychopaths time and time again. I call it debt accumulation, and the narcissist almost never employs it in the same way. The narcissist rarely accumulates debt from you in a cold, calculating way. They might borrow money and then rage when you ask for it back, or make you pay for things, because they feel entitled to your resources, but it's generally messy and driven by their sense of superiority. The psychopath, however, systematically builds up a non-financial debt that you are compelled to repay. They may do you a series of large, unexpected favors early on. A complex referral, a massive favor at work, or even paying for a huge trip. They are not being generous. They are creating an obligation, so when they demand a major, often illegal or deeply harmful favor in return, you feel psychologically trapped and unable to say no. They create a moral chokehold. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was a low-level psychopath who systematically befriended her landlord. She'd bring him dinners, help him with his paperwork, and even renovate his kitchen for free. A massive debt of gratitude. 6 months later, she convinced him, with tears and appeals to their friendship, to sign a stack of financial papers he didn't read, transferring the title of a secondary property to her. The debt she created was the instrument of the crime. Practical application. If someone does massive, unsolicited favors for you and then starts to ask for huge, disproportionate, and unsettling things in return, you are dealing with a psychopath who is cashing in the debt. The narcissist tends to make demands directly and angrily. The psychopath quietly and systematically buys your compliance. Reflective question. Do their demands feel like a panicked, angry tantrum, or a quiet, cold collection notice for a favor you didn't realize you owed? The debt is the key. The ending of the relationship is the most telling part of all. It shows what they value, your supply or your destruction. The narcissist's discard is temporary, followed by hoovering. They discard you because you ran out of supply or you wounded their ego so badly they needed space to find a new, uncritical source. But they will always hoover the moment they realize their new supply is flawed or they need a quick ego boost. Their discard is about punishment and restoration of power. They need to know that you are still desperate for them, even if they don't want you right now. Their core fear is being forgotten or abandoned. Let me tell you about Kevin. Kevin would break up with his girlfriend every 3 months, move on to a new person, and then text his ex 6 weeks later with a cryptic, "I miss you." He wasn't emotionally invested in the new person, he just needed a change of audience. The moment his new relationship didn't provide the perfect, flawless validation, he'd hoover his ex, knowing she was an easy, reliable supply source. The psychopath's discard is permanent disposal. When they discard you, it is because you are no longer useful to their specific, current objective. They have extracted the resource, completed the transaction, or you have become too much of a risk. The discard is swift, silent, and often utterly brutal. There is no sentimentality, no hoovering. Unless they suddenly need a very specific piece of information only you possess. They are not worried about abandonment. They are only worried about efficiency. Practical example. A narcissist breaks up with you via a huge, dramatic phone call. A psychopath breaks up with you via a 2-sentence text message and then blocks you on every platform, never looking back. The lack of emotional investment is chillingly clear. Key insight. The narcissist leaves the door open because you are a backup resource. The psychopath slams the door shut because you are a consumed resource. Is the breakup an emotional spectacle that you know will be followed by a desperate return? Or is it a cold, clean amputation that leaves you feeling like a consumed object? We end on the most crucial point: how to defeat them. Your defense must be as tailored as their manipulation. You defeat the narcissist by eliminating their supply. 1. Go no-contact gray rock. Complete and total non-engagement. Block them. Do not answer their calls, texts, or emails. If you must interact, give only factual, emotionless, short responses. 2. Starve the drama. The moment they introduce drama or rage, immediately end the conversation. I hear you. This conversation is over. The fastest way to bore a narcissist is to stop reacting. 3. Refuse the hoover. Recognize that the hoover is not love. It's a supply check. Treat it like junk mail and discard it immediately. This works because the narcissist's core need is validation. When you become a black hole of validation, they are forced to seek light elsewhere. You defeat the psychopath by increasing the risk and eliminating your utility. 1. Accountability through paperwork. Never take their word. Document every promise, every meeting, and every transaction in writing. A psychopath hates a paper trail. 2. Immediate public exposure. The moment you see a manipulation or a debt accumulation attempt, expose it immediately to a neutral third party. The psychopath's greatest enemy is scrutiny and consequence. 3. Become uninteresting. Be boring, unyielding, and totally useless to their current scheme. They don't have the patience to work around high friction. They will discard you for an easier target. The narcissist wants you to play their game of attention. The psychopath wants you to play their game of control. Your ultimate defense is to refuse to play. You are not an audience, and you are not a tool. I am ready to generate the supporting content package.